A chilling discovery on the battlefield changed everything. Ukrainian soldiers pushing through the smoke-filled outskirts of Avdiivka found something that would later make analysts across Europe shake their heads in disbelief. Entire columns of Russian tanks abandoned, burned out, or destroyed before they could even fire back. The images went viral, but the deeper story is far more shocking. Russian tanks in Ukraine are finished, and tonight we break down exactly why. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Frontline Report channel. Please subscribe and like my videos because it helps the channel grow and keeps these deep dive investigations alive. Now let's dig into the truth behind why Russia's armored forces, once feared around the world, are collapsing under the reality of modern warfare. The exterior appearance of the Russian tanks operating in Ukraine looks intimidating at first glance. Bulky armor plates welded onto decades-old frames, reactive bricks stacked along the turret, weathered steel coated in dirt, soot, and camouflage netting. Many of these vehicles look like beasts straight out of Soviet military manuals, rugged, crude, and built to intimidate. From a distance, long lines of T-72s, T-62s, and the occasional T-80 give the impression of a powerful armored fist pushing forward across the scarred Ukrainian landscape. But as Ukrainian drones rise above the battlefield, the exterior story begins to fall apart. Tanks appear chipped, rusted, missing armor segments, and hastily repaired with metal scraps that offer almost no protection. Some have cages welded on top, nicknamed cope cages, meant to stop drones but failing almost every time. The paint is inconsistent, the tracks are worn, the engines belch black smoke. The exterior condition exposes a harsh truth. Russia is sending equipment into battle faster than it can maintain or modernize it. Inside these tanks, the reality is even worse. The interior is cramped, hot, outdated, and filled with Soviet-era electronics. Crews often work with analog systems decades behind NATO technology. Radios malfunction, sights fog up, infrared sensors fail in bad weather. Crews sit beside ammunition stored openly inside the turret, a deadly design flaw the world has seen too many times. The interior is short of modern upgrades, short of safety, and short of comfort. Many crews report leaking oil, weak ventilation, poor fire suppression, and unstable electrical systems. Inside a Russian tank, the war feels less like operating advanced military equipment, and more like trying to survive inside a steel trap waiting to explode. Performance on the battlefield reveals the full extent of the problem. Russian tanks were designed for a type of war that no longer exists: large armored groups pushing across open terrain, supported by heavy artillery and massive troop formations. But Ukraine has changed tank warfare forever. Small teams with portable anti-tank missiles can ambush from hidden positions. Kamikaze drones costing just a few $100s can destroy million-dollar vehicles. Precision artillery guided by drones eliminates any tank that sits still for too long. The performance of Russian tanks suffers under these conditions. Engines stall under heavy load, optics fail under jamming, tracks snap after hitting mines, fuel systems clog in winter conditions, autoloaders jam at the worst possible moment. Many tanks never even reach the battlefield because they break down during transport. In multiple offensives, more tanks have been lost to mechanical failure than to enemy fire. Drones have become the nightmare Russia cannot escape. Ukrainian FPV drones strike from above. The fatal angle Russian tanks were never designed to defend. Turrets blow off violently in the infamous jack-in, the boxy effect caused by ammunition cooking off. Drone operators choose their targets calmly, hovering above tank columns and waiting for the right moment. Russian crews now fear the sound of buzzing. Some tanks retreat as soon as drones appear in the sky. Performance crumbles because modern warfare exposes every weakness of outdated design. Safety features inside Russian tanks barely exist compared to Western standards. There is no proper blowout panel to protect the crew if ammo is hit. Fire suppression systems are unreliable, escape hatches jam frequently. Newer tanks like the T-90M have slightly improved protection, but even they fall victim to drones, mines, and artillery at alarming rates. Safety is a luxury Russia cannot afford anymore, especially when the army is forced to pull old tanks from storage. Many of these stored vehicles have sat for 30 to 50 years in open fields, gathering rust, mold, and mechanical decay. When crews climb inside, they find cracked electrical cables, expired fire extinguishers, broken ventilation fans, and jammed manual controls. Safety becomes a gamble. Unique selling points, the features Russia once bragged about, have turned into weaknesses. The autoloader, made by Soviet designers to reduce crew size, now exposes the ammunition to more danger. The low profile that once made the tank harder to hit, now makes it harder to upgrade with modern armor. The speed, designed for flat plains, does nothing against mines hidden across dirt roads. The simplicity of Soviet construction, once Russia's strength, now limits adaptation to modern threats. Russia used to promote the T-90M as the pride of its armored fleet. But even that tank has been destroyed repeatedly on camera. Its thermal imaging is outdated, its armor is insufficient, its defensive systems fail to stop drones, its crew often abandons it before it explodes. The unique selling points Russia once celebrated now feel like relics from another century. The price Russia is paying for these tank losses is catastrophic, not only in money but in resources, morale, and strategic capability. A modern tank costs millions. Even old ones cost huge amounts to rebuild, fuel, and maintain, but the biggest price is manpower. Each destroyed tank means trained crew members lost, sometimes burned alive, sometimes trapped inside, sometimes forced to flee and hide. Russia cannot train replacements fast enough. Some tank crews today are barely trained for 2 weeks before being sent into fire. The economic price is crushing. Russia has lost more tanks in Ukraine than most countries have in their entire armies. It will take decades to replace even a fraction of them. Factories are working non-stop, but many materials are sanctioned or unavailable. Russia now scavenges parts from appliances, tractors, and old Soviet stockpiles. The price is not only financial, it is strategic. Without tanks, Russia loses offensive capability. Without armor, advances stop. Without breakthroughs, the war drags on endlessly. The conclusion emerging from Ukrainian battlefields is unmistakable. Russian tanks are finished in modern warfare. Not because tanks are obsolete. Western tanks like Leopard 2s and Abrams still dominate, but because Russian tank doctrine, design, technology, and tactics belong to another era. Russia entered Ukraine expecting tank warfare to look like 1985. Ukraine answered with 2024 technology. The battlefield has evolved faster than Russia can adapt. Drones dominate the sky. Artillery is guided by real-time surveillance. Anti-tank missiles hide behind every tree line. Warfare is precise, fast, and brutal in ways the Soviet designers never imagined. Russian tanks were built for speed, not survivability, for mass assault, not individual resilience, for overwhelming numbers, not technological sophistication. Ukraine has learned how to dismantle tank columns with small teams of drone operators and artillery trackers. Every time Russia tries a massed tank assault, it ends in burning wreckage and charred steel scattered across wide fields. Russian commanders know this, soldiers know this, even civilians watching videos online know this, and yet Russia keeps sending tanks because it has no other option. But inside the Kremlin, many now admit quietly that the age of Russian armored dominance is over. The world has watched thousands of tanks destroyed. The world has seen crews flee for their lives. The world has witnessed Soviet-era machines crumble under the pressure of cheap but deadly modern weapons. And the world now understands that the myth of Russian armored invincibility has collapsed completely. The collapse of Russian tank effectiveness marks a turning point in global warfare. It proves that technology, not size, decides victory. Innovation, not intimidation, shapes the battlefield. Precision, not numbers, wins the war. Russia has numbers, but Ukraine has innovation. and innovation always wins eventually. The war shows a new lesson. Tanks are still vital, but only if they evolve. Western tanks evolve, Russian tanks stagnate, and in Ukraine, stagnation gets burned alive. Russian tanks in Ukraine are finished not just physically, but strategically, tactically, technologically, and psychologically. No matter how many more Russia sends, the result will be the same: destruction from above, defeat on the ground, and a slow, grinding collapse of armored warfare as Russia once understood it. This is the battlefield truth Russia cannot escape. The age of Soviet steel is over. The age of drone-dominated warfare has begun, and Ukraine has proven it to the entire world.